Hello there, Ben Bowers, the Spirit Specialist, and I am here today to talk to you about one of two new releases from one of the very few Indian single malt whiskies that are available to the UK market. This is, now I don't have the full bottle, but this was actually sent to me by Indri, Piccadilly distillers over in India. They randomly got in touch with me just before Christmas to say we'd like to send you some samples, and I think it's because I've already done videos on their core bottlings, Trini and Drew, and this is essentially what the marketing department will send out to, I suppose you call them influencers and vloggers and bloggers and things like that. So it's quite nice actually as a retailer to be getting one of these because this is the sort of thing that will get sent out to people that aren't actually selling their products and have no way of quantifying how many of those products are being sold as a result of the work that they're putting out. But this is the sort of fancy stuff that gets sent to influencers and not to retailers that are actually selling it to customers. In the main, anyway. So it was really nice to be able to receive this, and this is the sort of thing. So it came across from India. I had a little bit of a back and forth with DHL who were delivering it in terms of customs duty and things like that, which was supposed to be covered by Piccadilly and turned out wasn't. Actually DHL's fault, not Piccadilly's. They said they were going to cover all the costs, and they have done. DHL in the UK were basically being a bit of an arse. But we've got a box here which has got a very attractive wooden box inside. There's also some notes about the two samples that are in here. So this is going to be two separate videos. And obviously looking at the title, you'll see that this is the Diwali. So in here, very nicely packaged, is two miniatures, one of which is the 2024 Diwali edition. The other is the new incoming 11-year-old Founders Reserve, Founders Reserve, if I can actually say it. So really nicely packaged, and you know, if they sold these, it would be okay. Now, I actually put a picture of this up onto my mailing list to say, these are incoming, these two bottlings, let me know if you're interested. And I think I kind of worded it slightly wrong, because I've had a lot of people come back to me and say, oh yes, the miniature pack, yes please, really interested in that. That's not what I was talking about, unfortunately. I was talking about the full-size 70cl bottles that I have been informed is going to be available to the UK market. Now, we had the Diwali edition last year. I did get a tiny allocation of it. I think it was 2 bottles or 3 bottles in the end. And unfortunately, I never got a chance to try it because it was, I allocated them to 3 customers who had already purchased from me previously and had supported the business. And they were essentially rewarded with being able to purchase the Diwali edition. So I've spoken to the UK distributor and said, look, Indri is selling me this. The Diwali 2024, people are already asking for it. Are we going to be guessing it? Yes. What about the 11-year-old Founders Reserve? Yes, we are. We don't know how many. And as you'll see for both of these, there aren't many bottles available worldwide, let alone in the UK. So I don't know how many bottles I'm going to get of each of these. But it's nice to have the miniatures to be able to do these reviews, to let you know what they're like. And then if they do sound like they're going to be up your streets, then I will be able to potentially sell you a bottle, depending on how many people are after a bottle, how many bottles I get, and priority does go to people that have supported me previously in the past. So if you are just going round retailers going, I want your rarest bottles, but I'm not going to buy anything else off you apart from the rarest bottles, some people might go for that. Not me, because I have a business to run, I have children to feed, and if people are just going to cherry pick, and to be honest, the people that are more often going for the ones that are like rare and exclusive are more likely the people that are then just going to flip it because they're just in it for a quick buck, rather than people that are actually going to open and drink this and share this with friends. Rants over. Not quite a negative way of starting the video, but you know, it's one of these things that really kind of like gets me annoyed as a retailer and frustrated, and kind of a lot of people out there aren't aware of exactly what goes on in the industry in terms of marketing and influencers and retailing and the difficulties being an independent retailer. So when I can, unfortunately, I am going to try and get this across to you. I'm sure a lot of people watching this will be aware of this and will be understanding, but unfortunately there are some people that aren't. Anyway, so before I tell you what this Diwali tastes like, and then I'm going to do a separate video which will follow on, which will be the Founders Reserve, which remains in this box, let me give you some background information about Piccadilly Distillers, Indri single malt whiskey, and then the makeup of this particular limited edition Diwali 2024 release.
Born in 1927, Pandit Kedar Nath Sharma founded Kedar Nath Sons in 1953 as a liquor distribution business that would quickly own all the liquor contracts in undivided Punjab. Inspired by the hustle and bustle of London's Piccadilly Circus, the company opened a restaurant named Piccadilly in Chandigarh in 1967, followed by a movie theatre in 1972 and the first of what would be a Piccadilly hotel chain in 1975. When a sugar mill and distillery was purchased in Patalia, Punjab in 1993, Piccadilly Agro Industries was founded as the spirits producing brand of the company, with a second distillery in the small village of Indri in Haryana following in 1994. Located 150 miles north of Delhi and near the base of the Himalayas, the word Indri is also a derivation of the Sanskrit word Indris, which denotes the five senses. India is the biggest consumer of whisky in the world, but the vast majority of whisky made in India is actually produced with molasses, making it essentially a rum and meaning it can't be sold outside of Asia as whisky. However, Indri is the fourth Indian brand to release single malt whiskies in Europe, following Amrut, Rampur and Paul John. And as with the latter, Indri uses indigenous six-row barley, which has been grown for hundreds of years in Rajasthan. It produces a smaller yield, but arguably more depth of flavour. 90% of their output is unpeated, with one peated run taking place every 3 months. Production of single malt whisky at Indri first started in 2012 and was eventually overseen by Surinder Kumar, who is considered by many to be the forefather of Indian single malt whisky, after serving as master distiller and blender at Amrut from 2006 to 2014. Graham Bowie, who previously worked with Angus Dundee and was the first distillery manager for Ardnamurchan, joined the business in 2020 to be involved with the final blending of the initial release and now runs distillery operations. A blended whisky named Whistler was launched in 2020, with Indri Single Malt launching in 2021 and Kamikara Rum in 2022. Diwali is the Hindu festival of lights, with variations celebrated in other Indian religions such as Jainism and Sikhism. It symbolises the spiritual victory of Dharma over Adharma, light over darkness, good over evil, and knowledge over ignorance. It's celebrated during the Hindu lunisolar months of Ashvin and Kartika, somewhere between mid-September and mid-November, and it generally lasts for 5 or 6 days. Each year, Indri select 4 single casks that are bottled as a limited release in celebration of Diwali. The casks are exclusive to specific markets. This year, a PX sherry cask number 87 for India and 3 separate Oloroso sherry casks numbered 88, 89 and 90 for the US and Canada, European and worldwide travel retail markets respectively. Unlike the rest of the Indri portfolio, the Diwali bottlings are peated expressions. It's not known where the peat is sourced from, but I suspect it's similar to Paul John bottlings such as Bold, whereby peat from Scotland is imported to provide smoky notes to the spirit. Whereas the 2023 release for Europe had a specified quantity of 421 bottles, it's not yet been divulged how many bottles make up the 2024 edition, but it does feature an ABV of 58.5%.
Okay, so you can see, actually I've just realised just behind my head, I've got the Trini, hang on, which way did my fingers go? So Trini, which is their core bottling, done a video on that, really liked it. Really impressive and fantastic for the price as well. Drew, which is the cask strength, just ex-bourbon casks, quite distinct between the two of them, both are fantastic. They actually did 2 bottlings that was tied in with House of the Dragon, the Game of Thrones spin-off, I suppose you'd called it, but unfortunately I think it was a licensing thing. It was only available in India. There is a version of Trini that's only available in travel retail, and as we know with the Diwali, there are technically 4 different versions that are only available in 4 different markets. So this one, and it does actually say on it, this is cask number 90, which is for the European and UK, and I can't open the thing, Jesus, markets, which is the Oloroso sherry. It's the PX that India gets. I'd love to see what that's like. I mean, if anybody from Piccadilly is watching and you're able to send me the PX to do a comparison, I'm not going to be drinking all of this on the video, so I will have a bit left to compare with the PX. Would be fascinating. Likewise, if there's anybody out there that has the 2023 Diwali that I had in the shop but never got a chance to try, it would be fantastic to be able to do a side-by-side with this. Maybe if I've got a bit left, we can actually do a little bit of a sample swap, if you're not already going to get a bottle of the 24 anyway. So, regardless, can't find anything to say how many bottles there are. So this is the card that you get, which talks about the Diwali and also the Founder's Reserve. Now, the Founder's Reserve, it does say how many bottles there are, and I will talk about that in the next video. But on the Diwali, it doesn't. But we know on the 2023 version for the European market, there's 421 bottles. Now, I wasn't aware that there were actually 4 different versions of the Diwali. And I'm fairly certain that last year's edition, the 421 bottles, was just for Europe, not worldwide. I thought it was just for worldwide, because there wasn't anything saying there's 4 different versions available for 23, but they are making this clear that there is for 24. So we had 421 bottles, presumably for the European market, not worldwide. So I'm assuming it's going to be around 421, 450, again for the European. Like I say, I got 3 bottles, not even 3 bottles, I think it was 2, that I will be lucky to get any more than that, just because of the way that, you know, the size, the number of retailers that are out there, the demand for it, that sort of thing. Price-wise, we were looking at, I think it was £130 retail from recollection. It was 120, 130 quid. So I guess it's probably going to be the same. But it doesn't say how many bottles there are on these notes. It talks about the Festival of Lights. It talks about the ABV. There's the usual kind of marketing nonsense in terms of, you know, indulging your senses and blah, 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 and the tasting notes, which are by Surinder Kumar. So I'm going to ignore them. They're handy to have. It's nice to have the tasting notes. And, you know, these are from the blender who's put the thing together. But everybody's taste is different. So let's see what I think of it. So as far as I am aware, this is the first and only release that is peated. So Indri and Trini and Drew aren't peated. Diwali does have some peated element. Now, I don't know for sure 100%, and if anybody can give me categorically whether this is the case or not, with Paul John, when they had their peated versions, the peat was actually shipped over from Scotland. It was mainly Highland peat, but they were bringing peat across from Scotland because they'd found that peat sources in India, in the local area, were too harsh, were too kind of like one note. They weren't actually adding complexity. So they were bringing peat across from Scotland. I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if these guys are doing the same thing, particularly seeing as they've got those Scottish ties with the guy whose name I can't remember, having done it on the video, in terms of the master sort of the distiller blender that they've got on board. I can't remember his name. I could go and look at the notes. I can't be bothered. Anyway, so I would suspect that they are using peat from Scotland, not from India, to introduce this smoky element. But everything else is. So it's 6-row Indian barley. We've got this tropical fruit character that seems to come through, definitely comes through on these two. So I'm expecting that. You know, I've not nosed it yet, but I'm expecting some kind of tropical fruit influence along with the smoky element. And then we've got the Oloroso sherry cask being used as well. So on the nose, everything that I have just talked about is there. There is this lovely tropical, there's like mango, there's passion fruit, there's papaya, there's guava, but it's charred. It's like it's been, not quite in a barbecue, but there is a charry note, like they've been kind of blowtorched. And it's like a sweet but deep, dark smokiness going on there. It's definitely like charred tropical fruit. You've got that sweetness coming through from the Oloroso. What a phenomenal nose. Bottled at, 58.5%, 102.4 proof. Are they using UK proof? They must be. Interesting. That's a very random thing to do on the bottle. Yeah, this you're probably not going to be able to pick this up because it's so small and it's probably going to go fuzzy if I get too close. But it says, my eyesight's absolutely terrible, that's why I have to look like a school mistress. 58.5% volume, 102.4 proof. Well, that's UK proof. That's not US proof. How interesting. I mean, my maths isn't great, but 102.4 divided by 2 is not 58.5. Okay. I wonder if that's harking back to, you know, UK rule and everything like that. I wonder if that's sort of leftover from that in the market. I've never seen that on any other sort of Indian whiskey that's been coming through. It doesn't say it. Well, no, it does on the... Oh, how have I not noticed that? It says it on the bloody bottle. It actually says it. I'm looking at it there. 46% volume on the Indri Trini, 80.5 proof. I walk around with my eyes shut at times, I really do. I wonder if that's left over from, must be a leftover from British rule and us having UK proof being different to American proof. American proof is, so double the ABV, so 50% ABV is 100 US proof, whereas it's 57.1% ABV is 100 UK proof. Well, there we go. I should probably look a bit closer at the items that I sell, hey? That would be an idea. Anyway, on the nose, it certainly doesn't give an impression of 58.5%. There's loads going on here. Loads of fruit, loads of dark fruit. It's got the tropical note that the Trini's got. It's got the sweet dark fruit that Trini's got. It doesn't have that red wine element, obviously, because there's none of the influence coming through. But what a phenomenal nose. Oh, wow. Oh, this is superb. This is really good. The tropical note is dialed down a little bit, but you still get really soft mango, not quite mango puree. There's a lovely silkiness coming through. The smokiness ties everything together. It's not up front, it's working with the fruit. The Oloroso kind of fruit cakey note is coming through, and it very much is a soft fruit cake as well. There's a real feeling of soft weight, weirdly, is the best way I can describe it. The smoke is tying everything through. It's bringing everything together in a soft, kind of marshmallowy pillow of just kind of like loads of fruit flavors going on, be they prunes and raisins and mango and guava and poached pear, and everything's slightly charred. It's like it's been just kind of put under the grill slightly. There's a bit of a toffee note coming through, a hint of salted caramel. There's kind of like phyllo pastry and strudel and all sorts going on. You know, like an apple strudel that's been put in the oven, and the outsides of the phyllo pastry is just caught a little bit in the oven. So there's just like little hints of like this kind of like charred sweet pastry going on. But the texture, there's a thick, silky texture to it as well. Doesn't come across as 58.5. I really don't want to put water to it, mainly because I haven't got a glass of water and a pipette next to me, and I'd have to go into the back room to get some. But it's phenomenal on its own. It's absolutely incredible. There is so much going on here. And that peated element is just lifting everything, bringing a whole new dimension, but not dominating, not going, hey, look, we've got smoke in this one, have a load of smoke. It's working incredibly well with that dense fruit profile that comes on there. That is superb. That is absolutely brilliant. Now, it might be too sweet for some people. It might possibly be too sweet. The smoke reins it in on the finish. It could be maybe a little bit, if the smoke element wasn't there, it could be a little bit too sweet on the finish as it kind of runs off. What it does is it lengthens the finish, but it just reins the tropical notes in to allow the finish to continue without becoming too sweet. I think there might be some people out there that go, oh, it's too sweet for me. It's not smoky enough, and it's a little bit too overbearing on that fruitiness that comes through. But I love that. I've got a bit of a sweet tooth. I'm a bit of a sucker for like cherry bombs and fruity whiskies and everything like that. But what's helping here is the texture, the interplay between the smoke and the fruit, the complexity. It's another one that changes every time you nose it, every time you sip it. I can still taste it now. The finish goes on forever. It is absolutely superb. That is a phenomenal whiskey. Really, really good. Now, I love Trini, and I probably prefer it to Drew, but I think Drew is really good and really interesting. I'd probably still give Trini the edge. That's better than Trini. That's definitely the best of the range so far. Now, I've got the 11-year-old to go to, but that is absolutely brilliant. And I can see why it's in such high demand for people that have actually drunk it as well, rather than it just being a limited edition, part of the Diwali celebrations. The popularity of Indian single malt whiskey at the moment, and Indian whiskey as a whole, but single malt whiskey worldwide. But just in terms of the quality of the liquid, that is brilliant. Now, I do, as I said earlier, I do have a little bit left. So if anybody from Piccadilly is watching and you are able to send me a little sample of the PX, that would be fantastic, because I love PX whiskies. And if it's better than that, then A, it's not fair that it's only available to the Indian market, but B, if it's better than that, it's going to rock my world. But if there is anybody out there, so if I can potentially split that into two, if anybody out there does have the Diwali 2023 and is maybe wanting to do a little bit of a sample swap just so that we can do a side-by-side, do let me know and let me get in touch, and we'll sort, ideally in the UK, so it's easier to post stuff together. But that is fantastic. Absolutely superb. I am very tempted now to potentially, if I do get some Diwali in, is maybe do a sample pack. I know I had a lot of people that were wanting the miniatures rather than forking out for a pool bottle. I do have in store Kamikara, which is the rum that Piccadilly distillers do as well. I've got the 8-year-old and the 12-year-old, and it would actually work out as a sample pack. We can maybe even do a tasting event where we have the 8-year-old, the 12-year-old rum, as well as Trini and Drew and Diwali and Founders Reserve. But it totally depends on how many bottles I get, if I get any. So let's see. Keep an eye on that. Founder Reserve video will be following almost immediately once I've edited it, etc. But I'm going to be filming it straight away now because I have a clean glass down here ready for it. But that is superb, and Indri are doing an absolutely brilliant job. Are they doing better than Paul John were? I think they might be. I think this could be probably the best Indian whiskey brand that's out there. I do like Rampur a lot. Amrut have really turned things around. I didn't think they were, I wasn't a big fan of them when they started, but they have definitely turned things around. But Indri, considering they are so relatively new on the market, I think are doing a phenomenal job. And yeah, they are ticking every single box for me, and I'm incredibly impressed. That is me for this video. I will see you at the next one, which will be the other Indri that I've got. But until then, take care. Cheers.